Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug.Show. My name is Doug Cunnington, and today we have a pretty fun interview. We're talking to Jared Bauman. He bought a site. He acquired a site that was earning about $2K per month. And within 2 years, 5x'd it to nearly $10K. So we're going to dig into all the details, including, figuring out which site to buy, some of the things he looked at, as well as all the steps in sort of prioritizing what to do if you want to emulate what Jared has done. So Jared, we don't know each other too well. So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I've listened to the show on and off for a good number of years. So it's great to be here and be with you.
Awesome. So for people that don't know you too well, can you give a quick intro, just a little bit about yourself? You don't have to go back to childhood, but yeah, let us know a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. I have been an entrepreneur really since I graduated college. I went to University of California, San Diego, born and raised actually in San Diego, which we were talking a bit about, but still live here to this day. Went to college here, started a photography business while I was in college, which probably was what kept me here. Grew that over the course of about a decade. Went on to sell that company, started a company that did editing for professional photographers, right when kind of digital was becoming the norm, kind of dating myself, but the transition from film to digital. Grew that with a partner, went on to sell my shares to my partner and went to start a marketing agency. I'd grown those companies on the back of digital marketing. So it just seemed to make sense that the next venture would be digital marketing. So that's what I do now. I run 201 Creative, which is a digital marketing agency. We do all forms of marketing, but I will be honest that over the years, we've tended to specialize now in SEO. So that's what we get referred for.
Very cool. What kind of photography business was it?
It was events. So like weddings, corporate events, that sort of stuff. Mainly, we did some other stuff. Once you get referred, people start referring you for everything, but mainly weddings and corporate events.
Got it. And like you said, you started in the film world. Did you study photography in school, or did you just have it as a hobby and then, ended up going deep into it?
I have a minor in photography. So I was the oddest major-minor combo in the history of the world. I majored in basically statistical and regressional analysis and minored in photography.
Yeah. Do you want to explain that a little bit? Like why those two?
Well, I've never been asked that before. That's a good question. When I went to college there, I went in undeclared because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I figured out by sophomore year, I'm like, I think business would be cool. This is right where I was getting the urge to start my photo business. And so I went into like place where you declare a major and I'm like, I want to be a business major. And they're like, that's great. We don't have a business major here. Who doesn't have a business major? So I guess the closest thing was what they called management science, which basically is statistics and regressional analysis. Management science doesn't make sense. So I just say statistics, regression analysis. But then I was getting into photography and also wanted to learn how to do that better because I was starting a business and enjoying that. So I was able to bolt on the minor, but it was certainly left brain, right brain kind of stuff.
Interesting. And then how long did you run that business before you sold it?
11 years.
Okay, cool. And then obviously as a photographer, you realized, hey, these editors are doing pretty well. Can you talk about the transition to like starting the editing business? Did you have a big team? How did that look as you were like transitioning out?
Yeah, it started to solve our own problem. It wasn't ever supposed to be a business. You think about it this way, like the transition was really hard for photographers because we used to shoot an event and take all of our film and go drop it off at the lab on a Monday morning. And then we were free to do things like market our business, enjoy time outdoors with our family. And then we go pick up the film on Thursday and was that. But then when we went to digital, we had to be the film lab. So now we had to sit behind a computer and edit. And it was cool because control, but it was a time suck. So anyways, we hired an editor to come in and help us. And all of our photographer friends were like, oh my gosh, that's a thing. Can we get access to that? So that was kind of the beginning of the company. We grew it to where we had thousands of clients worldwide. And We were in dozens and dozens of countries. It was fully remote. So everybody uploaded their images to us. And then we would edit those images for them and get them back to them in 48 to 72 hours. And that, certainly was a good company to have as the full transition in digital was made.
Got it. Was that around like the aughts, the 2000s, like 2005 onward or so?
Yeah, I think we started in 2007. Actually, we started the week I met my wife. So it made our first couple of dates a little bit, I was already exhausted from starting the company. I can always point at that. But yeah, so, there was some overlap with running the photo studio and starting this. Didn't really know where it was going to go. And then at one point made more sense for me to put my time into that. And so that's when I sold the studio. And then I was with the company Shoot.it until 2017, 2018, I think 2018.
Cool. Okay. And we'll skip over the marketing company for a minute here and just jump in and figure out like when you became aware of like niche sites and sort of like the SEO side of it, the affiliate marketing side of it. So again, we can skip the marketing piece, but I'm sure there was like, hey, all of a sudden you realized, hey, these SEO guys are making some money, right?
Basically, yeah. Yeah. That is the most down and dirty version of how I got into this. Then you're exactly right.
Okay, perfect. So we'll dive more into it when we jump back to the marketing company. 201 Creative, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's hit the punchline now. Tell us about some of the stats, some of the results for the website, and we'll back into it. But I like to, get to the punchline fast. Tell us the revenue numbers starting out, what they ended up being, traffic, all those details.
Yeah, happy to talk about all the numbers and whatnot. But the punchline is that we bought a website at the beginning of 2021, and it was making about $2,000 or so a month. Wasn't even very well tracked because it wasn't your standard affiliate style revenue. And 2 years later, somewhat painstakingly, not necessarily easy, but 2 years later, it was generating about $9,000 to $10,000 a month during the high season, the Q4 season. And traffic went from probably about 20,000 page views a month when we bought it to it's now eclipsed over 200,000 page views per month. And I'm trying to think of anything other relevant facts, revenue, page views. That's probably the real punchline, high level stuff.
We'll get into the content a little bit more, but how much content did it start with? And then what is it at now? Number of posts or however you judge it.
Yeah. So we had over 4,000 posts on it when we bought it. We deleted that down to under 1,000 right away. We actually kept culling it down while we were adding new content. It's now back over 1,000. It's probably around 1,200 posts or so right now.
Okay. Do you want to talk about why there was so much content, 4,000 posts when you got it?
So this was a website that was probably about 20 years old when we bought it, maybe 18 years old. And so it had been around during, I think it was starting like 2004, 2005. So it had been around during a time period when you weren't, here's the best way to describe it. It was around in its heyday when blog commenting was a thing, when people interacted on blog comments. And so all the posts were about industry events, moments in time, nothing evergreen about them. And then all of the comments was where all the interaction had. And people would come to this website to get the news of the day for this industry and then discuss it, debate it, and talk about it in the posts as comments. So you can imagine that upsides to this website were age and history and relevance and great backlinks. And the downsides to this website were thin 200-word articles with 3,000 words of comments about a topic that no one's cared about since the week after it went live 7 years ago.
Okay. Interesting. Where did you find the site?
The previous owner hired our agency to help him migrate the site to a new theme. Found out that just, through getting to know him and interacting with him through that, we kind of became colleagues, and then found out that we like to buy and build websites on the side. And after about 6 months, he's like, I hate working on this thing. Like, this isn't really my main gig. Like, this is kind of a side thing for me. I don't really like it. I can't seem to move the needle on it. You told me you guys work on websites on the side. What do you think of buying it?
Cool. Pretty organic. Did you get a pretty good deal on it since it was, off market?
Yeah, off market, man. I'll tell you, it's I've bought sites on some of the marketplaces, and that's all. Luckily for me, always gone very well. But there's just so much more flexibility on the off market deals. So we were able to buy it for like mid 5 figures, which is already a decent, like a fair multiple when you look at like what it was making. But we only had to put like 30 or I think like 30% down. And so basically we took how much the site was making per month, and those were the payment terms for the remaining, whatever it was, 12, 14, 15 months after that. So we put like, whatever it was, $15,000, $20,000 down on the site. And then the rest of the purchase was just made in monthly installments, basically from the earnings. Obviously the earnings could change, they could go down, but that's kind of how we set it up.
Cool. Pretty smart. And probably, since you had a business relationship with them, they trusted you a little bit more. You didn't have to compete with other offers. So it was favorable for both of you guys. That person got it out of their hair and didn't have to worry about it anymore, which is a big win for them.
He didn't want to like go figure out the market of it, or, and that was a foreign world. It's hard enough to put a site on the market when you know what you're doing. It's even more overwhelming when you're like, oh man, I don't even hardly even know how to log into my site. I've got to go figure out how to put this thing on the market. So I think it was a win-win for everyone. We're still friends to this day. We still text and talk, and so yeah, worked out really well.
Awesome. Well, you have a great post on your site that we'll link up to so people can dig in a little bit deeper, get some of the, the graphs and charts and other details in here. But you have a SWOT analysis on the site. Can you quickly tell people what that is if they're not familiar with a SWOT analysis? And then maybe some of the high points for this particular site.
Yeah, SWOT's an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's like when you think of quadrant, like you can kind of make a quadrant out of it. It's like a 4-part analysis of a business, a website, a relationship, pretty much anything. I mean, you can go use a SWOT analysis methodology. And so it's something I like to do with almost every opportunity. But so I published a SWOT analysis, or I actually went back to my notes from our SWOT analysis that we did. So I'll go through just kind of the high levels on this one for this site. Some of them we've already touched on. The strengths of this website were that this was like a really well-aged domain. And it wasn't, I know you work a lot with Otis and their aged domains. And this is like an aged domain that had never been dropped and was still getting traffic throughout the whole thing. So it's like an aged domain, but it had never really had any downtime. So that was good. Had a great niche relevant backlink profile. Looks like it was a DR56 when we bought it. I'm looking at it here. So weaknesses we kind of went through. Thousands of articles were out of date, getting any organic traffic. No one had really paid attention to the website who knew what they were doing. So it had a lot of tech debt, which we'll get into. Opportunities. So at first glance, when you see content that's on a site, you think, oh, we could update that and get that freshness factor boost and re-rank it. We had opportunities to go publish new content, which we did take advantage of. There were no affiliate posts on the website. There was no buying guides or anything like that. So we could take advantage of the high DR, the high relevance and publish buying guides. There were no ads on the site in terms of an ad partner, like an Ad Thrive, Raptive, Mediavine, all these Ezoics, these kind of things. We could add that. And then they had a small email list that we could try to revitalize. So those are what we listed as opportunities. And then threats were that the tech debt was going to be overwhelming and not make it profitable, which kind of happened, but we did turn it around. And then that the affiliate opportunities wouldn't turn out to be very lucrative. We were really hoping not to just stick with Amazon and stuff. So anyways, that's like a flyby of a SWOT analysis. You can go as deep as you want, but you can also keep it as general as you want.
Perfect. Yep. And people could obviously look up more on how to do a SWOT analysis. It's pretty, it's a good business skill to have. So you make the deal. It looks like a good opportunity for you to spend some time on it. How do you figure out where to start? Because there's, especially with 4,000 posts, it's like an overwhelming number to even think about. So how do you audit the site and figure out what you need to work on first?
Yeah. So we did a site audit, even though we'd done one like 6 months prior when the client had hired us, we did another one. And like I like to talk about this because we do a lot of audits and a lot of content plans at our agency. We do them every week. And like the audit tells you where things are and the content plan tells you where you need to go. And so they're best done together because it's a bit like, one side of the business, not talking to the other side of the business if you don't know. So the audit kind of told us what was wrong and where we were at. And the biggest thing to do is to kind of get together all the data that allows you to make decisions, because it's really easy to get a lot of data, but not have it give you the ability to make decisions. So like you can get traffic, but then if it doesn't have maybe the number of backlinks each corresponding article has, then it's hard to make a decision about whether you delete it or 301 it. If you get number of keywords that the URLs are ranking for, but you don't look at traffic, then you don't actually know if those keywords matter or not. And so getting all the information into one big spreadsheet and then just starting to go through it and categorize. The problem with this site, I alluded to it earlier, is like some of the posts look like they would be easy to prime candidates. And then you go in there and you're like, what do we do with this? Like it's 3,000 words of comments and I can't even run like a surfer analysis on it because it takes into consideration all the comments and it's not really about anything. And so we ended up deleting a lot of the content that we thought we were going to be able to work with. And the problem is once you delete content, like 500 articles, now you've got all these broken internal links and it's like an iterative process, this scale. Like you do a round and then you clean up and then you do a round and then you clean up and you do a round and then you clean up. And then you just watch how Google's crawling the site, watch and how the rankings are changing, and then let that kind of dictate where you're going in the future.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any tips for people that haven't done like a big analysis on, I guess, a content audit really, and they're not sure, like, do I 410 this? Do I 301? Do I just delete it? Like, any tips? Is there a guide that you use?
Yeah, so here's the down and dirty of it. This is kind of how we approach it at the agency. It's pretty much the site, if the article's been live for at least 6 months and it's not getting any traffic, we usually recommend deleting it. And even if it's good, because people will argue, well, what if it's good content? Usually it takes more time to update that article than it would be to just redo it. And it's not like that article is getting any measurable traffic at any point in time anyways. So that's the way to approach it that maximizes ROI, which is typically what our clients are concerned. So at that point, if you're going to delete it, it's just a question of whether to 410 it or 301 it. Now, 404 versus 410 probably doesn't really matter. But if you're anal retentive like I am, a 410 tells Google this page will never be live again, don't come back. Whereas a 404 is actually a temporary removal of the page. And so in theory, the bot could come and crawl back. So anyways, I digress. 404, 410, whatever. If it doesn't have any backlinks, just get rid of it. If it does have backlinks and they're worth preserving that back, it's a good backlink, you like it, maybe it's got a couple backlinks, then set up a 301 to something that's relevant. And then content that is ranking, maybe it's not getting traffic, but it is ranking for keywords, or maybe it's not getting much traffic, but because it's on page 2 for a bunch of keywords, those are the ones you want to go in and up because that has the high ROI associated with it. Like if you're sitting on page 2, number 12 for a good keyword, you're probably not getting much traffic from it. But if you go in and update that actually would have a higher ROI because if you get on the first page, you could actually.
Perfect. Okay. And because there were just so many pages, you probably didn't have a hard time just saying, you know what, we'll just kill this page. We'll get rid of it. You're going to have plenty left over. So let's talk about, quick recap. So did the technical audit, you created a plan. So you kind of have a prioritization on what to work on. So what did you work on first? What ended up being the highest priority to fix right away?
So getting rid of so there was a certain amount of tech debt that we just solved right out of the gate before we started deleting stuff. I took a screenshot actually and published it, but it's like all sorts of dumb stuff like H1 tags were, there were like 4 H1 tags and a bunch of stuff. There were no authors and only 2 categories for 4,000 pages. There were large image sizes that we could quickly go in and just like run short pixel for like 6 days on. It could get them down to size. There were like MX record issues. Google Fonts was like, so we kind of went in and did like just like kind of your classic, like let's fix the high level stuff. Then we started deleting content, and it took probably 3 months to do the iterative delete, fix, delete, fix, delete, fix. And then after that, it was when we kind of had the website to about where we wanted it, and we redid the categories now that we had the actual amount of content we were keeping, and redid the internal linking. So it actually wasn't haphazard, but made sense. And then set out in basically that order to start publishing new content and kind of going forward from where we landed on the site.
I need to go back. I forgot to ask you. So it sounds like it didn't have the traditional revenue model. Where was it earning the money from?
Oh, yeah. Good question. I'm glad we talked about it. Wasn't earning money from like an Ezoic or a Mediavine. Wasn't earning money from anything like an Amazon or like that. It was only earning money by selling ad spots on the website to vendors in the space. And they would pay a monthly fee to have their ads served either as a tile ad or in the sidebar. There were like different placements. And it was earning anywhere from like $1,800 to $2,400 a month based on who was paying and that sort of.
Got it. So from the opportunity standpoint there, I take it that's where you saw like huge opportunity because it wasn't earning in ways that are pretty profitable. However, there was no content to earn money in those traditional ways. Is that accurate? And do you have anything else to add to it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like I'm always looking when we'll talk about maybe how to get into like analyzing a website a little bit to buy, but I'm always looking for where am my skill set and where's there a gap? Like I love buying a site. I don't buy a ton of sites, by the way. I know some people like buy sites all the time. I don't buy many, maybe one a year. But if I can find a site that's getting like a bunch of page views and it has no ads on it, that's like a quick win. Or if we can find sites to monetize affiliate commissions, that was really one of the big highlights of this site is that you get a DR56 that's niche relevant, and I can do some things I already know how to do.
Okay. So it sounds like a slam dunk, right? It wasn't monetized that well, but if I heard you right, it took a little while for you guys to get some traction. So number one, is that right? And like, what assumptions were wrong that made it take longer than you expected?
So it took a lot longer than expected. In the name of hitting the punchlines, like it took over a year before we saw really strong uptick. There was signs of an uptick by the end of that first year, but we didn't start seeing like double-digit increases in traffic and stuff until like the following year, like darn near 18 months in. I think it was mostly related to the fact that on paper, this looked like a really good, strong domain, had a lot of content published, and it looked like it was very prime and ripe to just get a ton more going for it. But the combination of a website that basically, I think Google had said, hey, this site's not changing. We've been crawling this site for 6 to 10 years now, and it just keeps publishing stuff that we crawl it once, and then it's not going to be relevant anymore. There was that going for it. Plus, we changed the makeup of it. Like a site that has over 4,000 URLs, doesn't have categories, has no internal linking, isn't very crawlable, all these things. And we completely reworked everything by deleting a ton of content, but also changing the navigational structure, changing categories, changing internal links. And because of the history, I don't know for a fact, but it just took Google forever to start giving us some love from all this. So yeah, it took quite a while. There were, little breadcrumbs along the way, and we did find other ways to monetize and grow the revenue, but it took about 12 to 18 months before the site took off.
In hindsight, is there anything that you think you could have done differently? Obviously, you won't know, but just curious if there's some theories in your head.
So I'm a big fan of deleting content. I do it a lot, like in bulk. I recommend it to clients. And I have to say that sometimes a near instant fix, and sometimes it's a really long process. This was the longest I've ever seen, but it definitely, I don't think deleting content is a quick process at this point. I have seen it be that way, but if I wanted a quicker return, I definitely shouldn't have deleted over 75% of the content.
Okay.
I think I would have gotten more crawling on the new content if I just put that on the front page and just tried to bury the old content, but maybe not change so much of this structure because it was a very different site when we were done with it.
Gotcha. And is the theory, I guess the site architecture changed so much that it confused Google?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like the crawl rate wasn't great to begin with. And I think, that didn't exactly help
Sure.
over time, Yeah. I mean, probably we were also, it's two things. It's deleting all this content, deleting all this, changing everything, but also a website that really, it wasn't like it was just getting a lot of traffic and then something happened and we came in. It had been darn near a decade since it was getting a lot of organic traffic.
Okay. Yeah, it's so weird. And like, there's not, I mean, even people in really big agencies, it's probably pretty rare where this scenario comes through. And I bet if you looked at a lot of data, I'm purely speculating. If you looked at a lot of examples, I bet it would just be random. You barely could draw any conclusion on what the right thing to do is. That's just a guess. Do you have any other insight on that?
I mean, when we delete content at an agency, it's like deleting like the bottom 15%. Or it's, hey, is this topical silo that you wrote 25 articles about really that important to you? Because it doesn't seem like it's part of your brand. Oh, it's not. Okay, let's slice that totally underperforming silo off that's 5% of your content. Like it's never above 30, 40%. And here we are doing it like 75, 80% of the content.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we were kind of playing with fire and we definitely got a little burned if your ROI was about getting a quick return.
Sure. Okay. Let's transition to publishing new content. So you deleted a ton. You knew that you were going to publish more stuff. Can you talk about maybe like keyword selection and how you approach publishing the new content? And I'll throw out, this is a horrible interview style. You already got 2 questions, all right? So content. And you could also talk about the team or who's writing the content as well.
So it's important to note, because I did got this question before, like, because I have an agency, the whole model with building affiliate or content websites on the side was a solution to this problem a lot of us agency owners have, which is like some months you are really busy, other months you are much slower. Some months clients need a lot of content, other months they don't, and they need more PR work or more email work. And so you have these ebbs and these flows as a company in general, but you also have these ebbs and flows in what's getting ordered. So agencies solve that in really one of 2 ways. You either have a team and then just deal with the ebbs and flows, and some months are more profitable than others, or you kind of outsource most of it to keep your costs manageable with the ebbs and the flows, but then you don't have as much control of the product and deliverables and that sort of thing. I always like the former. I think SEO is very nuanced, so I kind of wanted control. But shoot, what do we do in those down months? And you're stressing out about payroll and all that. So I thought, well, why don't we build websites on the side and we'll just put our team on them in slower months. And that way we'll have something that isn't losing us money. We're growing an asset, and then we can kind of shift. So some months they won't get as much attention. So that's kind of the model. And that's where this is. So to answer your second question first, most of the work was done by writers who work at the agency. And, when it was slower, they would work more on this site. And when it was busier, they wouldn't work as much. Not experts, as it were, for this website. So kind of more of the generic writers who, know how to research and write well, but not an expert here. So once we got through all the deleting, that was probably 3-4 months in, we started publishing content in as much as we could. We researched like a content plan style of attack. So kind of going out and combining a bunch of different keyword research methods from like a content gap analysis of what other competitors, I use air quotes, like other sites that we kind of thought should be a competitor of ours. We could go after what we thought were some pretty big keywords, being like a DR56, 58, whatever it was. And then also just looking at low hanging opportunities, like long tail, low competition keywords, kind of combined all that. And then we did pick one silo to go after. So inside of our niche, we picked one topical silo to start in, and we just committed to writing almost all the articles in that topical silo before moving on to the next one. So we hit it pretty hard. We were publishing I think in the first few months of publishing about 70 to 80 articles a month. And then when we started getting busy in Q3 at the agency, we had to back off that a bit and back down. But in that first year, given that we didn't even really start publishing content until a couple months in, we published 317 new articles.
When did you start seeing traction for the new articles? Maybe in terms of, clicks, of course, but even just impressions on Search Console.
So the articles, let's just call it Q1 of 2021 was all about technical work. Q2 was where we started publishing a lot of content. And then starting in Q3, we had kind of backed down a bit. So we didn't really see much uptick in traffic until the end of the year. I'll pull up the exact numbers. So, when we bought the site, it was 19,846 page views. 6 months later, July was actually 18,160 page views. So actually dropped a little bit. Turns out that was a little seasonal. Summertime's a little seasonal in this space. October was back up to 21,000. And then by January, we're at 24,000 page views. So by January of the next year, 12 months later, we were only up 20% in terms of page views. It didn't start rocketing until we hit about 18 months in. And that's when we started seeing 33, 37, 49, 65, 87,000 page views.
Some real growth. So do you think it was pure speculation? It's fun to do as an SEO. So do you think it was more the amount of time or the amount of content that you published or something else, right? Any guesses?
In terms of what made it finally hit?
Yeah.
I think that I think it was a combination. When we bought the site, we did not build really basically no links for the first year. We were it's already a really, really strong domain. And after a year, we were maybe maybe Google's not really crawling these links anymore. Maybe these links don't matter in the way we kind of think of it as an SEO. So I think it was a combination of hitting a critical mass where Google was okay, we're going to respect you as a topical authority now. And building some links did drive some, organic traffic and internal linking and external linking to the site to provide a little bit more of a reason for Google to crawl the site. I think it was a combination of those two things.
Gotcha. That said, would you, if you were going back, would you spend some of the effort building links from the beginning to, let Google know people do care about this topic area and the site's publishing new content and it's getting new links as well? Yeah,
I would. It's probably a good opportunity to share what happened at the end of the first year. And I don't know how related they are. Like you said, these are all just a lot of theories. There's a lot of different things at play. But in November, so we bought the site in January. In November of that year, I got on a plane and went to a conference in the niche. I got invited by the previous owner, and he was like, "Hey, you should come out." I don't really have any interest in coming to this conference. And he's like, "Well, I don't know. You own the site. I used to go to these things all the time." And I was like, "All right." So I got on a plane and I went out there and I realized a couple of things. First off, I just went around and shook hands with everyone. Figured if I'm going to go, I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to represent this website. And people did know the website in the industry. So it wasn't like a classic affiliate style website where no one actually knows who we are. And people land there and never come back. It was a little bit of a brand. And so the first thing I noticed is, wow, there's booths here. And every one of these booths is actually an opportunity to advertise on the site. These people are out here spending money to get in front of these people. And these people are the people that are not in mass, but some of them are coming to our website every month. The second thing is I made a lot of good relationships. And that was when the website started to turn. Now, going to the conference has nothing to do on paper with ranking on Google. But it was when things started to turn. And actually met someone who was speaking at the conference there. And we were chatting and he said, "Oh, you run a marketing agency?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what we do. We run this website on the side." And he's like, "I made a course a couple years ago. It's really good. Like it was filmed well and stuff. I don't know how to sell it very well. Do you want to buy it? If you bought this website, you want to buy the course off me?" I don't know. What do you want for it? He told me, and I was like, I looked at the course. It was very well produced, and he gave me a very good price. So we bought the course off of him, and went back and started putting it into the website and all into the email and all that kind of stuff. But in general, like going back to your original question, we started building links right after, and they weren't related, but right after I got back from this conference, I started kind of networking a bit as well. We bought a course. We were able to launch that. That got some buzz. There were a couple things that started happening right before the website finally started to take off. And I don't know how related they are, but I thought I'd share it.
Yeah, that's cool. And as I've started to go to more in-person events, yeah, those connections are so much better than even like a warm email. A cold email is terrible. A warm email introduction, might get your foot in the door, but like if you go hang out with people, shake their hand, chat with them about, whatever, life and other topics unrelated to business, you really make those big connections. So that's pretty cool. Now, you don't have to share this, Jared, but like how much, maybe a range, did you pay for the course? Is it a video course? Like, was it a pretty thorough piece of work?
Yeah, so it was a video course. It was like between 2 to 3 hours long. So maybe a mini course. Like it's not like a 30-hour course. It's not like the be-all course in this niche. It's like a subtopic in the niche. But this guy was like the expert on it. That's what he was speaking about at that conference. And so he gave us a price for, we'll say well under $5,000 for the course.
Oh, that's great. I mean, when you think about a course like that, industries are vary greatly, but you're probably thinking at least, $100, maybe a few $100s for such a course is a couple hours long. And,
yeah, we charge $39 for it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the thing is like, you sell a handful of them, made your money back, and the rest is profit after that. So very cool.
And he was stoked, by the way, because I was like, "Hey, you're still speaking. Like you got a little website. What about if you sell the course to us, I'll give you an affiliate deal. So if you still want to sell it, like you don't own it anymore, but I'll still pay you, I don't remember, like 35 or 40% of the course." He's like, "Whoa, seriously? Awesome." He's like, "Let's do this right now." So he was really stoked.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, another win-win situation. Well, let's stick on the area of monetization. So started publishing more content. You were actually, going to events. You got a digital product, which is like the holy grail. And the creator was actually helping you market it, which is even better. So you get like borrowed authority. So what else were you doing as far as monetization as you were getting more traffic and growing?
So we had published a bunch of buying guides as part of that initial content sprint. And that did start, slowly as traffic slowly picked up, started generating some money. We initially went with Amazon and then said, "Hey, we'll come back and kind of test some different affiliate products once it actually gets some traffic." We were still getting money from those vendors. Thankfully, the old owner kind of handed off those relationships really well. We lost a couple in the transition, but picked up a couple, and so that stayed pretty steady. We inherited a small email list with the website. It hadn't been taken care of very well, and so we kind of revitalized that and put together a little autoresponder sequence. Put a pop up on the website. Started generating more emails. And so then once we had the course, we were able to market that right out of the gate. We got it in time for Black Friday. And I think we marketed it that year for Black Friday as like a promo. That added, I don't know, $3 or $4 grand in revenue right to that. And then fast forward to the beginning of the second year, when traffic is finally starting to pick up, we were able to qualify for AdThrive Raptive as a second site, because we have another site does have, well over 100,000. And so once it hit around 30, 35,000, I think that was when we were able to qualify for that. So that started coming in. And then down the road, we did end up adding an ebook and some other direct sales opportunities through the email platform, which we can get into. That was all in the second year.
Awesome. And yeah, keep going. Yeah, with what you mentioned there with the email platform.
So the email has turned out to be one of the biggest drivers of kind of ongoing revenue in this, especially when you look at the fact that like if you break off course sales as their own bucket, but really email is the driver of a lot of that. Like the email autoresponder sequence does promote the course. So when you look at email, and then in year 2, we started interacting with brands that were already advertising the site, and we're like, hey, like this email list is growing. It's a small list. It was like 1,850 people when we got it, and it was growing. I think it's now up to 5,000 people 2.5 years later, right? Like, so it's not a big list, but it's got a really high open rate, and they're really invested and thinking about high priced products to some degree. So we started going out to these vendors that were paying us a small amount per month to just have a listing and say, do you want to get in front of our audience via email? Do you want to advertise in our email? Do you want to sponsor an email? Kind of the classic stuff that we talk about on these kinds of podcasts. And different companies would have different promos they wanted to promote, like, hey, yeah, we've got a new product coming out, or we have a sale coming out that we want to. And so we started generating several $1,000s per month just from the email list and selling to other vendors to be a part of those emails on an ongoing basis.
That's awesome. What is the main driver for growing the email list?
It is literally just a pop-up with a free ebook. I'd like to say it's better than that.
Yeah. So, classic lead magnet. Well, to that point, have you explored like other lead magnets? Have you tested anything else?
Great question. So just recently, like 2 months ago, we were like, the email list is so profitable for us. Why don't we at least come up with like 3 lead magnets based on the type of content they're on? Like, so they're on like category, like, why don't we just create a lead magnet that's targeted towards category A? And we made 3 lead magnets and 3 pop-ups. I think it took all of like 3 hours, like you can take your top 5 posts in that category and then like tell ChatGPT to make an ebook out of it, and like, so it's not hard if you already have the content to create these lead magnets. So we did that, and you're right. That's something I need to post this and actually add it to the case study. But it almost doubled the conversion rate of the opt-ins. So it went from like a 0.3 or 0.4% up to like a 0.7 or 0.8% opt-in.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you think there are a lot more opportunities to come up with even more lead magnets, content upgrades, which are specific for the people that don't know? There's specific lead magnets for a specific piece of content that tend to convert really well. The quick example, like for the keyword golden ratio, I have a calculator that does that. So if someone watches a video, they're like, well, I care about that. I want the free calculator.
Yes. Yeah. Like generally speaking, I don't know if this is your take on it. Like having done this a lot, like the ebook is like the lowest barrier to entry as giveaway, as a lead generator, and as a result, usually has the lowest conversion rate. And if you can come up with things like calculators or quizzes or different videos, like insider videos, these kind of things, they typically convert higher. Yes, I think stuff would convert better. This niche is hard to think of stuff other than ebooks, which is why, I guess from a lazy standpoint or from just I can't really find something off the top of my head that I feel like is worth us trying out. But the reality is we should try out a couple of different things. And generally, even a segmented ebook doesn't perform like something that's far more valuable to people.
Have you thought of partnering with influencers on other platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube? Is that, I feel like there's such a big world out there. There are people in every single niche, however weird it is, there are influencers out there where you guys could partner up and do some cross promotion kind of stuff.
I do. I mean, as we were talking right now, it's like, we bought a course off of an industry influencer, basically. Like, why couldn't we network somehow with some industry influencers, some other ones, to create some content that people would find valuable that would also be add value for those influencers? Like, we kind of did it with one person already. Why don't we do that again? So yes, I think that's a great idea. I was kind of thinking along the same lines as I'm talking out loud about it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there's so many opportunities, and then a level on top. I'm gonna like give you a bunch of homework assignments to to think about. But are there other courses that other people could create? It sounds like, maybe you don't want to create a full course, but that dude, it sounds like maybe it was a good relationship. You could commission him or his peers to create another course in a similar area, right?
I'm writing it down. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about this brand that we bought is like, for better or worse, actually is a brand in the industry. Not like a popular one or like one of the big ones, and not like that at all. But, they're actually, the benefit of a brand is like, there are people, I would imagine, we'd have to try it out, that would say, yeah, I'd like to create a course and earn money, but also to build my career. It'd be nice from an acumen standpoint to have my course featured on this brand. And that's just the benefit of one of the many benefits you get when you have an actual brand. And so I do think there's got to be some people out there that would find that valuable.
For sure. And then because there are other influencers out there, have you partnered up with them where they're your affiliate to market the course that you purchased?
Not yet. No. So we when we bought it, we kept it on the same platform it was on, which was it didn't have an affiliate program. And so I think it was one of those things where it was like, okay, well, all right, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. And then it's been a year. Finally got it moved over to like Teachery or Teachable or one of those,
Sure.
And now it does have the ability to do affiliate stuff. We haven't like tapped into that, but we just got it moved over a couple months ago. And we're just kind of working out the billing kinks. But finally, we are on a platform where we actually could give affiliate codes out. And so that's going to definitely be something we do in the next probably couple months now.
Okay. Man, this is cool. So are you kind of the general manager pushing this particular project?
Yeah. Like I kind of run the strategy on it. And then, we have different team members that, unless it's urgent, if something's urgent and everyone's busy, it's like, oftentimes it'll be me or my business partner. But yeah, if it's something we can kind of plan for, we got a person in the team to take care of it.
Gotcha. And I was going to say, if you had a general manager, I think you have a list of 20 things you could explore to really, now it has traction. You got the digital product. It sounds like there's an industry out there. People know the brand. I'm like, there's so much to do, right?
I'm actually talking a little bit with, because, in the last couple of years, I've started hosting a podcast. And so now this guy's like, dude, maybe, do you want to come speak at this conference? Mm-hmm. So I went from attending it, a year and a half ago to maybe I might speak at it this year on marketing, which would be such a flip of, it'd be so weird to go to the conference about marketing to people who are in their own little niche of a website that we bought into. So, I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Very cool. All right. Well,
but again, doing the things we don't normally do, that's kind of the ironic thing about it. Like we typically, as website builders, we tend to stick, and there's nothing wrong with that, but ironic how many opportunities have come because I'm comfortable in front of the camera. I'm comfortable meeting people. I'm comfortable with that kind of stuff. And that, I don't want to say it's odd, but a lot of people who like to build websites aren't. But man, if you could challenge yourself to open up some opportunities in areas you're maybe uncomfortable in that a lot of people aren't willing to go into, that's where a lot of these monetization opportunities and growth opportunities have come from.
That's an awesome point. Yeah. And I think you're right. A lot of people, a lot of the work is, when I'm down in the basement, right? It's down in the basement, front of the keyboard. Maybe you have a couple of friends that you can chat with, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
Solo. Yeah. And you can get a lot of work done. But at the same time, it's you go to in-person events or, even slightly more online social forums or something like that, you can make some more connections. So, okay. So I asked a lot of questions. We jumped all over the place. What things did I forget to ask you, or what things are important that we haven't gone over yet?
The track record, the timeline in the second year was pretty funny because I'm looking here, like it really took until 18 months in to actually explode in traffic and then subsequently in revenue. So in general, this was just another reminder, like, I don't build a ton of like affiliate style websites, but I have a couple. But we work on like 25 to 35 businesses a month. I kind of know what I'm doing. I have a lot to learn, but this isn't my first rodeo. And I mean, we were like 12, 14, 16 months in and like looking at ourselves going, man, did we just make the biggest mistake ever? I mean, it's not going to kill us. Like it's making about the same as what we bought it for. Yeah, we've invested a lot of money into it that we haven't gotten back yet, but it was depressing is the wrong word, but it was really deflating. That's probably the right word. And, so I think that just in general, I think we didn't do a lot different between months 15 and 18 to get it to take off. It was just a lot of always reevaluating and making sure we felt we were still on the best path and kind of sticking to it. A lot of times people will look at like these growth curves and then see like, oh, what did you do right here to get it to hockey stick? And it's like not a lot different. Just we did continue to reevaluate the plan, but it was a lot of the same things. We just had to keep asking ourselves if we thought we were doing the right thing. And then sometimes takes all that momentum to build up and then take off. And that's what did end up happening. It just took a lot longer than we thought.
One of those overnight successes, it was like 18 months in the making. And do you have any handle on how many man hours were put into it or any kind of quantifiable capital or anything like that?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to keep track of exactly what the costs were. The writer costs, the content costs are pretty easy because, we kind of keep track of how many articles, how many words were written. I think we published just under 500,000 words in total now on the site. And then I don't know how many backlinks we built in total. I could pull that up. But in terms of the tech, that's the problem, is trying to figure out how much time and money all that tech debt took to figure out on the front end. I know it was over 100 hours of work from various people. So I do know that. So it was a lot of work. So that was you by yourself. That's a significant amount of work in the first 3 months. But I guess 100 hours divided by, 12 weeks, so it's under 10 hours a week. So you could bite that off. But then, there's been about 500,000 words published so far. And I don't have a total on backlinks. That would be great. But yeah.
Okay.
It looked like we were building like 1, 2, 3 a month. And then some months we were building like 5 to 6. A couple months we hit, like 2 months we hit double digits, but that's it.
Awesome. Well, what's the plan for, say, the next 12 or 18 months? Are you guys going to hang on to the site now that you have some momentum going, and any specific details of the plan?
I mean, I'm halfway between selling it and halfway between doubling it, and I say doubling it, like, obviously we never know if that's the way it's going to go. If anything, life has taught me, this website has taught me not to assume anything. But, I was kind of like, when we get it to that 5-figure mark, we'll reevaluate. And so I think we're just going to hold on to it and keep growing it. I like the niche now. And we're starting to get some inroads there. And I definitely think we could grow it. I mean, the email list, for example, is doing great, but it's only like 5,000 people. This is a big niche. Even though we're in like a sub niche of the niche, I still think it's a big and we've seen growing niche. And there's a lot more opportunity. I mean, we spitballed for 5 minutes. There's so much opportunity here if we kind of put more time to it. So long way of answering. I think we're going to hang on to it and focus on doubling down. More content, but really more of an investment in the email list, in creating our own products, and in doing a lot of the other things that have higher monetization.
Awesome. And it's not out of left field completely. Everyone's really excited about AI, right? And the week or two that we're speaking, Google has, I think it's SGE, right? It's like the search something.
Generative. I can't say it very well.
I'm all flustered too. But there's AI summaries in there, right? Google's stealing our content, putting a summary up there. What's your take on it? Any pure speculation? Just generally what we might see in the content website industry.
I mean, yeah, That's a very big question, and you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't ask. So I got to give you a good answer. I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be disruptive. I think it's going to be really disruptive for the style of websites that tackle those long tail question and answer topics. Ironically, I still think those will be somewhat important because Google is just doubling down every year on topical authority. So in many ways, I still think you're going to need those in some form or fashion to show Google you're topically authoritative, yet I don't think you're going to rank much for them. I think that for a lot of things, I've been talking about this a bit, is I don't believe that the general layman, for a vast majority of things, I'll say a lot of things, wants computer telling them versus a person telling them. That's why affiliate sites started from the very beginning, because in bulk, in mass, people on the internet like trusting a person that they've never met and has absolutely no authority they know of about the product to hold it and tell them what they think. And they like that better than Amazon recommending a product for them to buy. Even though Amazon will say, hey, you're looking for a beach chair, here's the one. They want to go to a website that says, here's my beach chair experience. And we're seeing this still in the rise of video and a lot of things. So no doubt AI is going to chip away at a lot of types of queries, I think, but I do still think there's a big spot to be had for people who are in some way, shape, or form showcasing experience, because I still look at the past 20 years. I don't see people's value on that going away.
Very good. Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. No one really knows, and I think everything has moved a lot faster, at least than I expected, in the last, say, 6 months or so.
I wouldn't say we're very heavy on the AI front, no matter which spot in time you evaluated it. But it's something to have to pay attention to now, and it has become much different than when it was just Jasper or Jarvis or whatever they were called as the only show in town. It's a much different experience now than even just 12 months ago.
So insane. On the agency side, are you guys using any ChatGPT or any AI tools to help get things done?
So we're using AI on a number of, I'll call it productivity fronts. We don't have any AI generated content yet, but we are testing with several clients with some AI base as the base, and then heavily human edited and added for a little bit of a lower price point for them. And so we're testing it, and the results have been pretty good so far. People like it. It reads pretty well, but no, we haven't done anything straight AI. But lots of AI in the productivity side of stuff to kind of help streamline stuff.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're coming up towards the end here, so I'll let you plug all the things that you need to plug. And I think you have a free resource, so I'll let you, talk about all the places that people can find you. And you can talk about the podcast too, if you want to. That's okay. Well, I'll mention it.
If you don't know the Niche Pursuits podcast, you should. I know, Doug, your podcast and Spencer's podcast, Niche Pursuits, have probably been around, two of the longest standing podcasts in this industry for sure. So I've been hosting that podcast over there for a couple of years now. It's great because I get to meet so many cool people and interview them about industry things. But a lot of people don't even know I have an agency on the side. They just think I podcast all day. But I'm at 201creative.com. That's my agency. If you have any questions about getting SEO work or marketing work done on your site. A lot of people ask a lot of questions. So I started weekendgrowth.com. That's more just a blog to just blog about different things SEO topics that we're thinking about, or, that sort of thing. And I was prodded enough to also put some of that stuff on YouTube. So those are both very brand new, the Weekend Growth website, and then the YouTube channel. But one thing that, as a giveaway, you asked kind of at the front end, how do people evaluate what to do with all the content? It's a site they just bought, whether it's a site they even have right now. So as an agency, we have a Google Sheet, basically gathers data from a number of different sources and puts it all into one spreadsheet that you can look at, one tab, and it has all the data there, page views and backlinks and number of keywords and that sort of stuff. So we're giving that away for free if you want. I did look up the URL. I'm not a guest on podcasts much, so I had to look it up. So it's weekendgrowth.com. jared.com/site-performance-sheet. And I'll just give you a link for it too, but it's
Perfect.
it's a bit of a mouthful.
Rolls off the tongue. That's great. No, we'll put a link in the show notes so people can get to it easily. It's a great resource and will definitely help you, do that stuff a little bit faster. And I'm going to ask a little bit more. So 201 Creative, who's the right kind of client? Who should check that out a little bit more?
Yeah, small and medium-sized businesses. We work with both like local businesses and then more national SaaS e-com style businesses. So we specialize in both of them. Can work well with both of those types of sites. We do work with a good number of affiliate and content websites, whether you've been hit by an algorithm update or you are like the two types of content sites we work with are, oh crap, I've been hit with an update. What do I do? Like, how do I get this back on track? Or, okay, I'm growing it. It's going well and I got to scale. And can you help me scale? So those are kind of the two types of content website creators that we work with.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Jared, it's been awesome to connect with you, and we'll link up to all the stuff that you mentioned, and people should check out Niche Pursuits, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Thanks for having me, Doug. It was really, really cool to catch up. Really cool to hang out. I keep saying catch up. We've never met before.
Thanks, man. We'll catch up soon then.